Hey everyone, and welcome to my new Pacman frog video series. I'm really excited to be embarking on this new video journey, making some different content than I have in the past. Still continuing other types of videos as well, but diversifying the types of videos I'm making a bit. And I've recently taken up the hobby of keeping some Pacman frogs because they're really, really cool creatures. They're amazing hunters. They're just cool to watch, even though they're not that cool to watch like 99% of the time because they're really lazy. They're sit and wait predators, so they just wait for food to walk right in front of them. But they're brutal hunters, so they're entertaining to watch. And I got one that was pretty young, as seen in this photo here. So I decided, since the very first day I got it, to try and document its growth, because these things grow considerably. This thing is super tiny compared to what it will likely be when it's an adult. I do not know the sex of the frog either. I'm not gonna try and fluster it this early into having it by picking it up and trying to look at its thumbs, because that's just a little too much for the little guy who's still getting used to the new environment. But without further ado, here's the first 4 weeks of having this frog. This frog at the time was about the size, actually a little bit smaller than the size of a Ritz cracker, if that's a useful reference. And then the bowl that the frog is in is a little bit larger than the size of a grapefruit, maybe around the size of a regulation men's softball. Random, but hopefully that kind of paints the picture. So here's a look at week 2. I did go a few different days throughout week 2, so you'll see the progress, especially I think a few days into the second week of having this frog. I noticed him kind of getting a little bit chubbier, and it seemed like his whole frame was growing a little bit if you go back to the first week, if you kind of scroll back and compare that footage. Like 3 days into week 2, the frog is about the length of 3 of my fingers or so. This is what the frog looks like after sitting in its water dish pretty much all day. Sometimes I've read that they will blow themselves up a little bit to help shed in the growing process. At a young age, from what I understand, it's important to feed these guys pretty regularly as well, so this frog eats daily. Towards the very end of week 2, as seen in these clips here, is when I really start to notice that this is looking less and less like a little baby blob that was just a tadpole and starting to take on actual frog characteristics, I think, a little bit more, and just growing in general. In week 3, the main developments I see in this young frog are skeletal. It seems like its internal skeleton is getting larger, almost awkwardly big for its skin. So there's certainly some growth going on in that department. I also notice, comparing week 3 footage to week 1 footage, the frog's back legs are significantly developed. They're larger and the muscles are more developed. So you can see that growth is occurring. It seems like this frog is doing well, and its conditions are in check, and it has a great appetite, which are all good signs. In this clip in particular, I think I see particularly notable evidence of the frog's back legs having grown significantly from week 1. In this clip, you'll notice how, as I'm pouring water on the frog, many particles of the frog's substrate fall off and are washed right away. But you'll notice that on the frog's back left leg, there's kind of a slimy, mucky thing sticking to it. And what that is the frog's skin. It's shedding, which is normal and a part of the growth process for a young frog like this. Although the frog is definitely longer as well, it's growing both in width and length, I think you can still kind of see this is a young frog. If you look towards the back of the frog, it sort of looks like that bony structure still has remnants of it having its tail as a tadpole. We know from the way that adult Pacman frogs look that as this frog continues to grow and develop, that structure will all change. So that's another thing to sort of keep track of in terms of comparing how this looks from week to week as the frog is growing and developing. For the first couple weeks, I was primarily just feeding this young frog crickets, and it really loves them. And every once in a while, I'll put a calcium supplement on the crickets. In the coming weeks, I certainly plan to diversify the frog's diet a bit. I'll still give it crickets here and there, but it is really important for the overall health of the frog to not only eat crickets. That can lead to some issues for them. So one of the biggest things I notice at the top of week 4 is the growth of the frog's eyes. They're actually more like almost cartoonish frog looking. They're big and sort of protruding. They weren't really doing that as much when the frog was younger. So that's a big growth difference I noticed. You'll see in this clip here, that frog was eating a cricket that had some of the calcium powder on it. The frog is growing taller as well in terms of like the length of its, when it's just sitting normally, the length of its nose to the ground has gotten higher. It's gotten longer from head to tailbone area. And it's still pretty active. The young frogs jump around a lot more and are a little bit more skittish for sure than the older ones. I have another bigger one that doesn't move nearly as much. I tried to set up similar shots of the frog, such as this front-facing one, to those that I got in the first week. And I think if you scroll back in the video and go to that first week and look at some of the front-facing shots juxtaposed to how the frog looks now, you'll see undeniable growth. Once these frogs latch onto something with their mouth, they are determined to swallow it. They will take down much bigger crickets than the one in this video here, but they're determined. And this one is eating a lot, and it's voracious, and that's causing it to grow as well. And yes, in case you didn't know, they do use their eyeballs to assist them in swallowing. also in week 4 started incorporating some minnows into the frog's diet, and it seems to really love them. In the next couple of shots, I definitely noticed that the frog is rounder than when I got it, and that's a good sign. They're supposed to get rounder. Them being a little bit fat looking is a sign that they're actually properly fed. You don't want them looking super bony. You can see here at the end of week 4, relative to its water bowl, the frog is a lot bigger than it was in week 1 as well. There's no denying that. Here you'll see the frog 4 weeks in on the left of the screen, and on the right of the screen is the frog day 1 that I had it. Some definite growth. It definitely looks more muscular overall, and it's developing. You can see, like I said, it's a little bit taller from ground to like the top of its nose. So I think it's really cool to see how this frog has evolved in just 4 weeks' time. And I plan to do another update when it's been 8 weeks total, when another 4 weeks have gone by. So be sure to stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more.